Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for this week's video I wanted to do another story time video. Now I'm not gonna lie, the story is still pretty fresh. It happened probably like about a month ago, I want to say, and as you can see by the title, we were followed home. So this was my best friend and I and one of our other friends. It was literally so scary. Like, Rachel and I have been followed before. I've done another story time of a time where we were followed, so I'll leave that down below. But this has probably been the scariest thing out of all my experiences. It got to the point where we called the police because it was that bad. So yeah, I'm hoping I'm gonna be alright to tell this. I don't know if like there's some undealt with like trauma in my head from this. I know with my best friend, she's still trying to like come around. If you guys want to know what happened, just keep watching. I'm gonna start right from the beginning. I cannot remember what day this was, but it was like early last month, like early beginning of June, and my friend Deyna was in town. So I don't know if you guys have ever met Deyna, but yeah, she isn't in Auckland, and both my best friend Rachel and I live in Auckland. So she was here for the night, so we thought we'd all catch up, and we were trying to figure out what to do. So I suggested, like, why don't we go and like have a girls night? We'll like do a real classic, like go get some pizza, go get some snacks, and just like sit down and have like a movie night and just like a catch up kind of night. That was our plan. I did have work the following day, so this was a Sunday night. Basically I have church Sunday night from about 6:15 till usually about 8. I don't think I went for dinner. No, I didn't go for dinner that night. Story starts from after I left church and got to my best friend's house. So I just want to point out that my best friend does not live in a dodgy area of Auckland. I'm not going to say where she lives, obviously, for privacy reasons, but I'm not going to say like the general area or where it was, but like all the places that you think of where like you know crime happens in Auckland, it was not there. I think I rock up to her house at like 9:15 in the evening. I wasn't sure at that point whether I was going to stay over or not. I had thought about it, hadn't brought anything, but my work, I don't really start too early in the morning, so I thought if I do stay over, I've got enough time to kind of like travel back home and then get ready for work and then go to work. My best friend is Rachel, my other friend is Deyna, and they were both there, so like it was great that I showed up and they were there. They had already gotten pizza. My best friend had got me the pizza that I like. Yeah, we all kind of ate a little bit of pizza, and then we were going to go to Countdown to get some snacks before we started the movie. Behind my best friend's house is a big reserve. So their house is like here, the fence is here, and there's everyone kind of has a gate to kind of go out onto the reserve. My best friend's house is here, the reserve is here, the road is here, and then if you walk left down this street, Countdown is at the end of the street. So basically from my best friend's house, if you are gonna walk, it takes just under 10 minutes probably to walk to Countdown from her house. It is not daylight saving, so it is dark. So my best friend Rachel and my friend Deyna, we decide to go and walk to Countdown to get snacks. So we leave my best friend's house at probably around 9:45, I want to say. Yeah, we walk to Countdown, we get snacks, we decide in Countdown that we're also going to get a bottle of wine because we haven't all caught up in a really long time, so we're going to have a drink while we watch the movie and stuff. So at that point I kind of knew, okay, I either have to have one drink, or if I have more than that, I'm gonna have to like stay at my best friend's house and I can't drive. We get snacks, we get this bottle of wine, and we leave Countdown at about, I want to say about 10 p.m. So keep in mind, Countdown is here, you walk up this road, you turn left, you cross the reserve, and my best friend's house is like right there. So it's very, very close to where she lives. So we're kind of walking home, just joking. So we don't put anything in a bag, we kind of just like carry it. So we're like carrying this bottle of wine, carrying chips, carrying lollies, and we walk past what I think is a driveway. Later on find out it's an alleyway, which makes it even more like sinister, and there's this guy walking up, and I look at him and the others don't see him, and I just get a really bad feeling. He's a white male, he is in this massive hoodie, he's got his hands in his pocket, it's like all black, and he's got like the hood over his head. He has really like black eyes. I think, okay, well there's 3 of us and 1 of him, so like it should be okay. So I kind of just like look at him and then look away. He's like halfway down this driveway as we kind of walk across, and he doesn't like speed up when he sees us or anything. He just kind of like walks at normal pace. So I didn't want to like tell Rachel or Deyna to like freak them out or for me to sound panicky, because Rachel is a bit like me and she will panic or like go into defense mode at things like this. My other friend Deyna is just pretty chill and like lighthearted, so to me, like if I brought that up to her, she'd be like, don't be like stupid, like you're overreacting, you're overthinking, yada yada yada. We kind of just like start to walk as normal, and then Rachel turns around and she notices that this guy is following us. She doesn't say anything to like me or Deyna, and I deliberately haven't turned around, and then I see Rachel turn around like a second time, probably like a couple of minutes later, as we're starting to get to this corner where we're going to cross the road, and I turn around as well and he's nowhere to be seen. So I'm like, okay, cool, like he's turned off. And so yeah, we cross the road, we walk up the reserve, we open the gate, go back through the gate, we shut the gate and we lock it, so you can lock the gate from like down the bottom, and we go into her house, we lock all the doors, we like pull the like blind down in like her living room and kitchen, and yeah, we, you know, just like figure out what movie we want to watch. We open the lollies, we start opening the bottle of wine, and my best friend Rachel goes to the bathroom. And at this point it's probably about, I want to say about 10:15. So like a little bit of time has passed, so we probably got home at like not very long after 10. So the way my best friend's house is so there's a sliding door here, there's like a row of windows here, her living room is here, her kitchen is here, there's like a glass door here and like a window like here, like looking into her kitchen. Her sliding doors and the window are normal glass, and this side door is frosted glass, and we don't have the blind pulled down on the side door with the frosted glass. Deyna hears a tap on the window and she's like, she turns to me and she's like, did you hear that? And I'm like, hear what? She's like, oh, it just sounded like there was like a tap. And I'm like, no, like I think that's Rachel in the bathroom. The bathroom window was open, but her house is like quite elevated where you cannot reach the bathroom window from the ground floor. Like it's way too high up for you to try and reach it. Even like the tallest of tall people could not reach it. Like Phil can't even reach it and he's like 6'3". And then Rachel comes back in and like we start to like crack the wine. So Rachel's standing in the kitchen with her back to the frosted glass. Deyna is sitting on the couch with her back to Rachel, and I'm sitting on the like couch that I can see both Deyna, Rachel and this door. And then Deyna turns around to talk to Rachel, and she like looks at the door and she's like, oh my gosh Rachel, there's a man at your door. And Rachel's like, no don't be stupid. And because like Dana's very jokey and like she would do something like this, and she's like, no I'm being serious, like there is a man there. And so we both turn and we can just see this outline of a male, and we're starting to get freaked out. We're like, oh my goodness, like there's someone there. And while that guy was standing there, we could hear another guy walking around the property. So we think that's what the first tap was, him walking around the property, maybe trying the doors to see if they're unlocked or if any of the windows are open. All we see is like a white shirt and a cap, and then we see another figure come across that's wearing a black hoodie. At this point we realize, oh my gosh, there's 2 of them. I think Rachel was like, okay, like what do we do? And I was like, okay, well the door's locked, are the windows locked, like are there any windows that are open? And so she's like, oh my gosh, like the bathroom window's open. So Rachel goes and runs and shuts the bathroom window, and we kind of just think that like they'll leave, because if they're trying to like get in and nothing's like unlocking, like, and we had the lights on too, so like we had the lights off, and if nothing's unlocking we think they'll just leave because there's obviously people awake inside and like the lights on. And so yeah, these shadows walk away from the door, but we can hear them walking around on her deck outside. This is starting to like give me like chills as I remember like what happened. When Rachel comes back from the bathroom, I'm like, you need to wake up your flatmate, because one of her flatmates was away in Tauranga, the other flatmate was asleep in her room. So I'm like, okay, you need to go wake her up, because like if anything happens and she's asleep, like that's bad. So we go and wake her up. She kind of like could hear like us kind of like scuffling around, like freaking out a little bit. I think she'd woken up a little bit. Before she went to go and wake up the flatmate, these guys, like, they come back to the door and they're just like standing right in front of the door. Like, they're just like, you can't see in because it's frosted glass, but we can fully see their outline. And so I'm like, okay guys, we need to call the police. They're trespassing and like, this is scary. Like, if they break in, like, what's gonna happen? Rachel's like, do we need to call the police? And I'm like, yes, like, we need to call the police. Like, this is bad. And so I start calling the police while Rachel goes and wakes up her flatmate. And as her flatmate comes in, her flatmate sees the guy standing in front of the door, just like looking in, and even she got freaked out. And so yeah, we're on the phone to the police, we're describing them, we're saying there's two guys, we think it's the guy that was from earlier that followed us. We think he may have gone to like a nearby house, or like maybe there's like a party house or something on the street and he's gone to get someone else, and they've both come and like jumped the fence or whatever, and they're like wandering around on her property. Because Rachel does have a house in front of her, but the only person that lives at that house is like an elderly woman, so it's not like she would just like be randomly like having people over that would like get drunk and wander around the property, if that makes sense. We're all locked inside, but there's like 4 young females here and 2 males outside that we don't know. We're not expecting anyone to come round. We haven't ordered any pizza or anything, like it's not like someone delivering food. So the police like start to like come, because obviously like this is a scary kind of situation. And then as we're on the phone to police, we hear them walk down my best friend's like part of her driveway. There's a part in her house where like underneath there's like a door that opens, and it's kind of just like a storage area. It's kind of like a shed that's built into like the under part of your house. You can't get inside from being under there, but it's just like a storage space. So Rachel and her flatmate go to Rachel's room, because Rachel's room is right above where that shed is, and they put their ear to the floor and they can hear them rummaging around and like throwing things. They hear something crash. They obviously realize they've broken into that little shed thing. They're obviously rummaging around for something to steal, and yeah, they can fully hear them. And then that stops, and then they start to come back up to the house, which is scary for us because it's obvious they're trying to steal something. They're obviously not happy with the whole shed situation, and now they've come back up to the main house, and they're fully aware that there are females inside, because they can hear us talking, they can hear us on the phone, they know that we know that they're there, and they're still continuing to walk around her property. And at this point they are literally on her property for a good like half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I think eventually the police get there at like at 11, I think. And so like we hear the sirens and like we can hear them coming. We hear a helicopter come above my best friend's house, and then we hear like this massive like knock on the door, and then turns out it's police. So like I was on the phone to like the lady like in the call center until the police got there. Yeah, we open the door and it's the police. He's there with a sniffer dog. I think it's just the one guy. Like we hear the police kind of like walking around outside before we open the door, and then they bash on the door, and then we open the door. So yeah, the police have had a little bit of time before they knock on the door to kind of like look around the property, and for the dogs to try and like figure out what's going on. He says that the property's clear now, but that the dog did pick up a scent from over on the reserve, over my best friend's fence, down her driveway, and the dog was so keen to go into the shed. So yeah, it's obvious that we weren't like making things up, and like there definitely was someone on the property. Yeah, he said that they're not there now, like the sirens must have scared them off. They did have police kind of going around the neighborhood. There is a party house that is known to police kind of close to where my best friend lives, so they obviously went to check that house as well, but nothing kind of seemed out of the ordinary. So I think that once the sirens came from police, that they must have ran off. But yeah, police said just to keep an eye out, and if you hear anything or if they come back, just to give them a call. So yeah, obviously once police left, we were kind of freaked out, because we were like, what happens if they come back? Like, are they going to be angry that we called the police? My best friend Rachel and her flatmate went down to the shed to see if anything had been stolen. You could tell that they had been in there trying to steal, because everything was a mess. Like, they'd knocked down all the suitcases, things had like crashed over, like it wasn't how Rachel and her flatmates had left it. Thankfully nothing seemed to have been stolen. They came back inside, we locked the doors, and then we kind of like tried to watch a movie to relax ourselves, but then we just ended up talking about the whole situation. And then we kind of just let a little bit of time pass just to see kind of what would happen. whether they would come back, whether they weren't, and it got later and later and there was no kind of sign that they were going to come back. So we decided to call it a night. The flatmate pretty much went back to sleep like straight after the police left. Like she was like oddly calm about the whole thing. But yeah, my best friend Rachel and even Deyna was really freaked out, and I have never ever seen her like that, and I've been friends with her since, how old would we have been friends, like 16. She doesn't freak out. To see her freaked out really freaked me out. And yeah, Rachel and I tried to sleep that night and we couldn't. Deyna had to get up early for a flight the next morning and she didn't sleep the whole night either. Rachel and I were just worried that they were like gonna come back, because it just seemed like their whole plan was really like spontaneous and just like they were trying to plan it as they went. We're guessing it was that guy and he went to go get someone else, and then they saw us not jump the fence, but they saw us like go through the fence and into that house. They obviously knew they could jump the fence, and like it was kind of like, then what? And then it's like, oh, we should steal something, and like they were just trying to get in, and that's probably why they just took so long to do things. But like we had no way to tell whether they had like any weapons on them or anything. Maybe the guy saw the bottle of wine in our hands and like wanted to like steal the wine, or maybe he thought that we were all going to get really drunk so we'd be really easy targets. So we didn't know whether they thought that they were just going to give it a bit of time and then come back when we were maybe a little bit more drunk, even though we weren't drinking to get drunk. As three of us, you could not get us all drunk on one bottle of wine. We kind of had an idea of what their intentions were, but we didn't really know whether they were just going to give up or whether they were going to go until they got what they wanted. I probably got like half an hour of sleep that night. Rachel, she was real in and out and kept having dreams that they came back and attacked us. So needless to say, I called work the next day and I was like, bro, like I just explained the whole situation, and I was like, I can't come in. She's like, holy crap, like I'm glad that you're okay, and like that's fair enough, I completely understand. It was kind of one of those moments where you're like, I could die. Like if they break in and like I'm in the way of something, I don't know, like it could have ended so badly. And like my best friend got freaked out at one point where she wasn't sure if she'd locked the door with the frosted glass or not, and she like reached for the handle and she was like, oh my gosh, what happens if I haven't locked it? And I reached for it and I open it and they like grab me, like what's gonna happen? And like thankfully it was locked, but we just kept thinking like, what would have happened if it was like summer and all the blinds were up and we could see them, and like they've like tried to like smash the glass? Would they have tried to like pick a lock? Like what would have happened? So it was just one of those moments where like you really just like took a step back and you're like, okay, we need to be calm and we need to think logically here. I think if I hadn't have been the one on the phone to police, I would have been a little bit more freaked out. But I know that in situations like that you do have to keep your cool and you have to keep your calm, because panic can kill you just as quick. It was terrifying to say the least. They literally followed us home. Like it had to have been that guy that came out of the alleyway, because there was no one else on any of the streets. Like no one else would have been able to see us cross that reserve and go through her fence, and like he definitely wasn't alone. And I think with having that little bit of time between when we got home and when we first saw them, it was like a 20-minute gap, there would have been enough time for him to like go and like get someone else. Needless to say, my best friend doesn't go anywhere in the dark now. She always used to go to like the supermarket on her own at like when it was dark, and like I try not to like go anywhere on my own when it's dark. If you guys enjoyed that story, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe, turn on the notifications, and check out my social media. My best friend put it on her Snapchat story when it happened. It was so scary. I know there have obviously been like people that have been put in way worse situations, but for me that's probably the scariest situation I've ever been in. Thankful to still be here, thankful to still be alive, thankful to God for looking after us all in that situation. As soon as it happened I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to tell you guys because it was scary. Like even my parents don't know, because I didn't want to tell my mum because she freaks out over the smallest little things. So I'm probably watching this video right now and freaking out. So I promise you my next video will be a little bit more happy and positive. Thanks for listening, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Bye.